This is the first episode in a series that I am doing for buyers and sellers to give you comprehensive advice on things that maybe you hadn't considered or maybe you just need a bit more information on. So this episode is for first-time buyers. It's a very, very exciting time for people, very daunting and so much to learn. So hopefully some of the information I provide you with will help it to be a smoother process and perhaps give you some more confidence in kind of taking the first step. Hopefully, as a first-time buyer, you will already have saved a substantial deposit between 5 and 10% as a minimum. Obviously, if you have been able to save more, that will give you much more options, but usually 5 to 10% is the minimum requirement for most lenders. Once you have your deposit saved, I would recommend, if you can, speaking with a mortgage advisor. They are in the know, they will be able to give you the best advice and often get you better deals, or you can go direct to the lenders and seeing what options are available to you. They will also do an affordability check and let you know what your monthly repayments would be and what you could afford. Hopefully they'll be able to provide you with a mortgage in principle. So deposit and mortgage in principle. Those two things are really very basic requirements that you would need in order to take the next steps. And without those, really, you are going to be underprepared. Once you've got your finances in order, I suggest registering with your local estate agents. So even though their properties are likely to hit the market online, it's good to have a chat and build relationships with the local agents because they are the experts and they will be able to point you in the right direction of properties that perhaps you have missed or hadn't considered. I mentioned that properties go online, which 99% of the time they do. I would also strongly suggest not only following the main portals such as Rightmove and On the Market, but also following the social media pages like Andrew Morris, for example. We often put sneak peeks on there, and the reason we do that is because for the team to do all the photography, do all the videos, write up all the details and edit everything, that can take a fair few days to get it perfect. However, when we do a story on our social media, that's obviously much quicker and generates interest from the moment we get the instructions. So we often do that, and we have sold many properties just from social media prior to marketing on the main portal. So it's always worth following pages, especially mine, because I have lots of tips and advice, but also I will share some upcoming properties for you. Once you've registered with local agents, you've got your finances in order and you're following all the property portals and social media, you need to start booking viewings. This is the exciting part. As a first-time buyer, I would strongly suggest that you view lots of properties. Even if they're ones that you don't think are going to be suitable, there is no harm in looking. And when you do view the properties, ideally view in daylight hours. Obviously that's harder at this time of year as the nights draw in, but I would go in the daylight with somebody, either the person you're purchasing with, so perhaps your partner, or if you have a trusted friend or a family member and you welcome their opinion, I would take them alongside, especially as they are likely to be less emotionally involved and they will look at things logically rather than excitedly. I would strongly suggest keep your criteria as broad as possible. Don't look in a tiny specific area unless you need to for work or for schools, for example. If you can widen that search, that will give you more options. Lots of areas in Herefordshire will perhaps give you more property for your money, or if you're specific on an area, you might be willing to have a slightly smaller property but to get the more sought after location, and that's down to personal preference. So the other things to consider as well is, would you be prepared to do work for a property? And there is a huge difference between cosmetic work and a complete renovation. So just be prepared to look into what work needs doing. If you're happy to strip wallpaper, decorate, maybe put flooring down, that is worlds apart from knocking walls down, extending new kitchens, new bathrooms. So really make sure you've had a good look at what it is you're prepared to do. I would really recommend keeping a list of pros and cons of each property. I hear it all the time that people have viewed lots of properties, they've all merged into one and they've forgotten which bits they liked and didn't like. If you can, write a list of all the pros and cons for the properties that you've seen, and then you'll be able to kind of prioritise your criteria and work out what it is that's really important to you. Finally, probably the first job, but set a budget. If you can afford 270,000, doesn't necessarily mean that you should borrow the full amount. You need to have a look at really what you can afford to pay back each month and live comfortably with, whatever your priority is. Obviously you might want to stretch yourself and that's completely up to you. Some people look above their budget, thinking they'll get a bargain, then they fall in love with their ideal property, which is more than they can afford, and then they find themselves in a predicament when they end up paying more than they'd anticipated. Don't start viewing properties at 300,000 if you don't want to spend 300,000. It's so easy to get carried away once you've viewed a property. Naturally, if it's over budget, it's likely to tick a lot more of your boxes than properties that are within your budget. Once you've viewed a property, if it's one you really like and it's not brand new on the market, I would strongly suggest viewing a second time before putting an offer forward. It's amazing what you see on a second viewing when you've had time to go home and consider everything about that property. Obviously, if it's a property that's brand new to the market and there's a chance you might miss out, then go ahead and offer on the property as long as you're happy that you've done all the checks and necessary research on that property. If you have any questions at any point, even if you're not looking at a property with us, you're more than welcome to drop me a message or give me a call at the office, and I'll always be happy to give you advice on where to start and anything else you might want to know. So on the next episode in this first time buyer series, I will tell you the steps with regards to making an offer once you find your perfect property. So drop me a follow and keep an eye out for the next.